I never thought I'd be writing a post like this, but here I am, grappling with the fallout of a revelation that shattered my life. My name is Mark, and I was married to Jennifer for 6 years. To the outside world, we seemed like the perfect couple. We had a nice home in a decent neighborhood, both held stable jobs, and even shared a dog that we loved like a child. But beneath the surface, things were starting to fray. The first cracks appeared about 6 months ago. Jennifer had always been the life of the party, outgoing, social, and the type of person who made friends easily. Lately, though, she became distant, often glued to her phone, texting or scrolling. I'd ask her who she was talking to, and she'd give me a dismissive wave of her hand, saying it was just work. I wanted to believe her, but it didn't sit right. Then there were the late nights. At first, I thought nothing of it. She was swamped with projects at her job as a human rights advocate. But it became too frequent. She'd leave the house in the morning and wouldn't return until the early hours of the next day, claiming she was working with her documentation team. I tried to be supportive, but a nagging feeling gnawed at me. One night after she came home around 2 a.m., I noticed something odd. She took a deep breath before entering our home, her face a mix of guilt and irritation. When I asked her how her day had gone, she exploded. "Why are you always so nosy? Just let me have my space." It was like someone had flipped a switch. I felt like I was losing her, but I didn't know why or how to fight for something that seemed to be slipping away. The final straw came a month later. I was cleaning up our home office when I found a receipt for a fancy hotel. The date was marked for the previous weekend, while she had told me she was working late at the office. I felt my stomach drop as I read through the details. It was for a room booked under her name. My heart raced. How could she lie so effortlessly? I decided to confront her that night. I waited for her to come home, rehearsing what I would say in head. The moment she walked through the door, I could see she was exhausted. I went straight to the point, holding up the receipt like it was a smoking gun. Her reaction was immediate. She paled and stammered. "What is this?" I demanded, my voice dripping with anger. "You said you were working. You lied to me, Jennifer." Her initial shock turned into defensiveness. "Oh, come on, Mark. It's not what you think. I was meeting with colleagues about an important project. Important enough to book a hotel room." I shot back, feeling every bit of my trust erode. She stammered for a moment, trying to piece together an excuse that was falling apart before my eyes. I had to," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I swear it was just work. You don't understand how critical this project is." But I had seen enough. I knew she was lying. It wasn't just the hotel receipt. It was the way she was acting, the late nights, the secretive phone calls. As we argued, I felt a mix of rage and despair wash over me. How could the woman I loved do this? I had given her everything. I was angry, but even more so, I was hurt. I felt betrayed, like I was trapped in a nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. What was supposed to be a conversation turned into an emotional hurricane, and every word cut deeper than the last. I stormed out of the house, taking our dog Max for a long walk, trying to clear my head. The night air was cool, and the stars felt more distant than ever, much like my thoughts of a future with Jennifer. That night was just the beginning of a tumultuous emotional journey that would lead me down a dark path of discovery and decision-making. What I didn't know yet was how far Jennifer's deception would go and how I would choose to respond to it. After that explosive confrontation, I knew I couldn't just sit back and let the situation unfold without taking some action. The truth was, I felt completely lost. I didn't know if I wanted to fight for my marriage or if the best move was to cut my losses and run. It was a classic case of heartbreak meeting the instinct for revenge. For the next few days, I tried to keep it together. I went to work, I walked Max, and I even tried to be civil with Jennifer when she was home. But I could see the tension in her eyes, and I felt the weight of her guilt hanging over us like a dark cloud. I started to notice little things, like how she would flinch when I walked into the room or how she avoided my gaze. It was like I had turned into a stranger in my own home, but the nagging questions wouldn't leave me alone. I had to know the extent of her betrayal. I started to gather evidence, not because I was malicious, but because I needed to understand how deep the lies went. I didn't want to confront her again without knowing the full truth. I began by checking her phone. I felt guilty invading her privacy, but desperation pushed me to it. It wasn't hard to figure out her password. It was the name of our dog, followed by her birth year. I hesitated, heart pounding, before unlocking the screen. My hands trembled as I scrolled through her messages, and what I found sent chills down my spine. There were texts exchanged with someone named David, her team leader. They were flirty, filled with inside jokes and pet names. I felt sick as I read through them, realizing the extent of her emotional betrayal. "Can't wait to see you tonight. And you make my workdays so much better," leapt off the screen, each message like a dagger to my heart. I kept scrolling, finding more incriminating evidence in the form of pictures. Selfies taken in the hotel room, her wearing a seductive outfit I had never seen before. I felt my stomach churn. I had always prided myself on being a good husband, but here she was, flaunting her infidelity right under my nose. The emotional turmoil was overwhelming. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and confusion. How could she do this to us? To me? I thought about all the late nights she claimed were for work. How many times had she been with him instead? And what were the chances that this had been going on longer than I suspected? Armed with this new knowledge, I called a friend, Jake, who had always been my sounding board. I needed someone to talk to help me sort out my jumbled emotions. He was supportive as I recounted the events leading up to my discovery and the damning evidence I had found. "Dude, you need to confront her again," Jake advised. "You have to lay it all out on the table. Don't let her twist your words or make you feel like you're the bad guy. She brought this on herself." I took his advice to heart. I wasn't ready to walk away just yet. I wanted her to face the consequences of her actions. So I set up a time to talk. This time I was going to be prepared. When the day came, I felt a knot in my stomach. Jennifer walked in, her face pale, as if she already knew something was up. I sat her down and laid everything out before her, the receipts, the texts, the photos. I watched as her expression morphed from confusion to panic and finally to anger. "How could you invade my privacy like this?" she yelled, her voice rising. "You don't understand how hard I've worked. This isn't about you. It's about us, Jennifer," I shouted back, my voice echoing off the walls. "You're the one who decided to cheat. You're the one who chose to betray me." She stumbled through a series of half-hearted excuses, claiming she was just looking for emotional support that I hadn't been giving her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You think it's okay to cheat because I'm busy with work?" I asked incredulously. "That's not how relationships work." The argument escalated, and I felt every bit of the love I once had for her draining away. Our words became weapons, slicing through the facade of our marriage. I didn't know how long we fought, but when it was over, we were both left breathless. I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I realized I had two paths before me. I could either choose to fight for my marriage, to try and rebuild what had been shattered, or I could walk away, preserving my self-respect but losing the life we had built together. The decision weighed heavily on my mind. I wanted justice, but I also wanted to know if this could ever be fixed. As I walked away from that confrontation, I knew one thing for sure. I needed time to think about what I really wanted moving forward. The days that followed the confrontation were a whirlwind of emotions. I spent almost every waking moment wrestling with my thoughts. The bitterness of betrayal lingered in my mind like an unwelcome guest, refusing to leave. I felt a sense of urgency to make a decision, to either fight for a marriage I had once cherished or to cut my losses and exit a relationship that felt irreparably broken. I leaned hard on my friend Jake during this time. He was the grounding force I never knew I needed. We meet for drinks after work, where he'd listen as I poured out my anger, confusion, and hurt. He helped me sift through the noise, urging me to focus on what I truly wanted for my future. "You deserve better than this, Mark," he'd say. "Don't let her manipulate your feelings. You've got to think about yourself for a change." One evening, as we sat at our usual bar, I decided to share everything I had uncovered. "I found these texts," I said, pulling out my phone to show him the damning messages. "Look at this. How can she say you make my workdays better and can't wait to see you tonight when she's married to me?" Jake shook his head, his expression a mix of anger and sympathy. "Man, that isn't just careless, it's downright cruel. She's not just violated your trust, she's taken you for granted, he said, leaning forward. You need to think about what you want the next steps to look like. Will you be happy if you stay with her knowing she chose him over you? The thought hit me like a ton of bricks. Could I genuinely be happy with her again after everything? I wanted to believe that love could conquer all, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that our relationship had changed forever. I knew that whatever I decided, it needed to be based on my values, not just on a desperate wish to return to how things were. I went home that night feeling more confused than ever. Jennifer was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, a look of nervousness on her face as I entered. She glanced up but quickly looked away, the tension between us palpable. I could sense that she was waiting for me to say something, to either lash out or try to heal the rift. Instead, I opted for silence, not wanting to engage in another round of accusations. I spent the night in our bedroom, tossing and turning, unable to escape the turmoil. The next morning, I woke up with a newfound clarity. I needed to take control of my situation. I decided to approach the situation methodically. I began documenting everything, every text, every late night, every suspicious behavior. I wanted proof, not just for myself but in case things escalated further. I realized that if I was going to confront Jennifer again, I needed to be prepared with evidence in hand. Over the next few weeks, I collected everything I could find. I saved text messages, noted her inconsistencies, and even tracked her movements when she left the house. Each piece of evidence felt like a step toward clarity, but it also deepened my anger. I felt like I was unraveling the truth of our relationship, layer by layer, and what I found only solidified my belief that this affair was more than a mere fling. Finally, I decided to confront Jennifer again. I scheduled a time when I knew we wouldn't be interrupted. As I sat across from her, I felt a mixture of dread and determination. I had to get answers, but I also had to know where we stood. Jennifer, I began, keeping my voice steady. I've been thinking about what's been happening between us. I've gathered some information and I need you to be honest with me this time. Her eyes widened, the tension in the room thickening. Mark, I don't think we should keep going through this. Can't we just move on? She replied, her tone shifting from defensive to pleading. No, we can't just move on, I insisted. I can't move on when you've been so unfaithful. I need to know if you're still seeing David. Is this still happening? She hesitated, the guilt evident on her face. Finally, she sighed, her defenses crumbling. It was a mistake, Mark. I thought I needed someone to talk to, that I was missing something in our relationship. I never meant for it to get this far. Not meant to, I fired back. You made a conscious choice to betray me. You chose to meet him, to text him. It's not just a mistake, it's a betrayal. I know, she cried, her voice breaking. I felt so alone. You were always at work and I thought I could manage it, but it spiraled out of control. The tears streaming down her face made my heart ache, but I couldn't let sympathy cloud my judgment. I had to think about my own feelings too. What do you want, Jennifer? Do you want to fix this, or are you just sorry you got caught? She looked down, her face flushed with shame. I want to fix this. I love you, Mark. I just made a terrible choice. As I stared at her, wrestling with the flood of emotions, I realized that her words wouldn't be enough to heal the wounds. Trust was shattered, and no amount of pleading could mend it overnight. I took a deep breath, heart heavy with the weight of my decision. I need time to think, I told her, my voice steady but filled with uncertainty. I need to figure out if I can ever trust you again, and if this marriage is worth fighting for. As I walked away from that conversation, I felt the burden of the choice ahead weighing down on me. Love and betrayal danced a cruel tango in my heart, and I knew that whatever happened next would change everything. Time dragged on, and I felt like I was stuck in a limbo of uncertainty. Each day passed slowly, marked by the silence that filled our home like an unwelcome guest. Jennifer and I were living under the same roof, but it felt like we were in two separate worlds. I was still gathering evidence, but I was also wrestling with my emotions. I had so many mixed feelings about her and our relationship. I spent a lot of time reflecting on our past, trying to piece together the love we once shared and the betrayal that had shattered it. I remembered our wedding day, the vows we exchanged, the promises we made. It was hard to reconcile that beautiful moment with the reality of her infidelity. I began to question everything: the late nights, the secretive behavior, and even the small moments of intimacy we had shared in the months leading up to the affair. Had it all been fake? My thoughts turned to revenge more frequently. I found myself fantasizing about how satisfying it would be to expose her to David, to show him the woman he was sleeping with and the pain she had caused me. I imagined sending him screenshots of their texts, letting him see the lies she told. But every time I considered this, a small voice in my head reminded me that revenge wouldn't actually heal the wounds. It would only deepen the scars. One evening, I went out with Jake again. We sat at our usual bar and I couldn't help but vent about my situation. I just feel like I'm stuck between wanting to move on and wanting to make her pay for what she's done, I confessed. Part of me wants to expose her. She hurt me, why shouldn't I hurt her back? Jake listened, nodding thoughtfully. It's natural to feel that way, Mark, but you need to think about what will really make you feel better. Will revenge give you closure, or will it just lead to more pain? His words hit home, and I found myself contemplating whether revenge was truly what I wanted or just a fleeting fantasy. I realized that if I was going to reclaim my life, I needed to focus on healing and making decisions that would lead me toward a happier future, whether that involved Jennifer or not. Eventually, I made a decision. I would confront Jennifer one last time, not to accuse her or seek revenge, but to have a heart-to-heart about our future. I wanted clarity and honesty, and I needed to know if she was genuinely willing to fight for our marriage. I hoped that by laying everything out in the open, we could come to an understanding. I chose a quiet night when the weight of the world felt just a bit lighter. I could feel the tension in the air as I asked her to sit down with me. She looked apprehensive, and I could see the fear in her eyes. I knew this conversation was going to be crucial. Jennifer, I began, trying to keep my tone neutral, I need to talk about us. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I want to hear your side, where you stand and how you really feel. She swallowed hard, glancing away for a moment before meeting my gaze. I know I've messed up, Mark. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I want you to know that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. I raised an eyebrow, skeptical. What does that mean? Are you willing to cut all ties with David? Are you really committed to rebuilding our trust? Yes, she replied earnestly. I've already told him it's over. I don't want to lose you. I love you and I want to fight for our marriage. Her words hung in the air, heavy with hope and doubt. I looked into her eyes, searching for sincerity. I wanted to believe her, but every ounce of my being warned me to be cautious. Look, I want us to work, I said slowly, but I can't keep living in this state of uncertainty. I need to set some ground rules if we're going to move forward. First, you need to be completely open with me about everything. No more hiding. She nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. I promise, Mark. I'll be an open book. I'll do whatever it takes to rebuild your trust. Second, I continued, I need space to process this. I don't want to rush into anything. I need to know that we can heal without the burden of constant arguments or secrets. I understand, she whispered. I'll give you all the space you need. I took a deep breath, knowing this was only the beginning. Lastly, I think we should consider couples counseling. It might help us work through these issues and learn to communicate better. Yes, absolutely. I would be open to that, she replied, a sense of relief washing over her face. As we talked, I felt the walls I had built around my heart begin to crack just a little. Part of me wanted to give her a chance, to believe that she was genuine in her desire to make things right. But another part of me cautioned against getting too comfortable too quickly. The conversation lasted for hours, and by the end I felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't much, but it was something. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, and I knew we had a lot of work to do. I'd have to tread carefully, but I was willing to try for myself, for her, and for the love we once had. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that the journey was only beginning. I had to stay vigilant, ready to protect my heart while navigating this complicated path toward healing. Whatever the outcome would be, I knew I had to remain true to myself and my values, no matter how challenging it was. After our heartfelt conversation, there was an air of cautious optimism in the house. We agreed to take things slow, and I could see that Jennifer was genuinely trying to show she was committed to making amends. She began leaving her phone unlocked, voluntarily sharing her whereabouts, and trying to include me in her daily life as much as possible. It was a significant shift from the deceitful secrecy that had plagued our relationship for so long. As the days passed, we both took steps toward healing. Jennifer reached out to a therapist for individual sessions, and we made arrangements to attend couples counseling together. There was a part of me that was still wary. Could I really trust her again? But I also recognized that rebuilding trust takes time, and I had to allow that process to unfold. Counseling turned out to be a crucial step for us. Our therapist, Dr. Lewis, was no-nonsense and straightforward. In our first session, she helped us lay our cards on the table. "What brought you both here today?" she asked, looking between us with a gentle yet probing gaze. Jennifer spoke first, recounting her feelings of isolation and the poor choices she made in seeking comfort elsewhere. I listened intently, still processing everything she said. It felt surreal hearing her admit her faults out loud, and for the first time I could see the weight of her guilt. When it was my turn to speak, I opened up about my feelings of betrayal and confusion. I expressed how her actions had shattered my perception of our marriage. I wanted her to understand how deeply her choices had affected me. "I feel like I lost myself in all of this," I admitted. "I don't know if I can fully trust you again, but I want to try." Dr. Lewis nodded, taking notes as we spoke. "It's clear that both of you have a lot to process," she said. "Rebuilding trust is a delicate process, and it requires honesty, vulnerability, and effort from both parties. Are you both committed to that?" We both agreed that we were willing to put in the work, and with each session, I found myself slowly opening up to the possibility of healing. We tackled difficult topics, ranging from our communication styles to our individual needs within the marriage. I realized that I had also contributed to the distance between us by becoming so consumed with work and life that I had neglected our emotional connection. However, as we continued our sessions, there was an underlying tension that remained. I couldn't fully shake the feeling of betrayal, and I often found myself falling into moments of doubt. Late at night, I would lie awake, wondering if Jennifer was truly committed to changing or if she was just saying what I wanted to hear. One night during our weekly session, I noticed a shift. As we delved deeper into our feelings, Jennifer's phone buzzed on the couch beside her. I glanced at her, and for a split second, I saw panic flash across her face. She quickly silenced the phone and tried to redirect the conversation, but my heart raced. Had she been in contact with David? Was she still lying to me? After the session, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. I decided to check her phone again when she went to bed that night. I felt a mix of guilt and determination as I reached for it, knowing I shouldn't be invading her privacy. But my instincts were on high alert, and I felt I had to protect myself. What I found made my stomach drop. There were texts from David, fewer than before, but still enough to confirm my worst fears. "I miss you," one read. "Let's meet up and talk." I felt the ground beneath me shift as anger surged through my veins. How could she? After everything we had talked about, after the sessions we'd gone through together, she was still keeping a foot in both worlds. The following day, I called Jake. I found texts from David, I told him, my voice shaking with rage. "She's still in contact with him, and I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm back at square one." "Dude, you need to confront her again," he urged. "You can't let this slide. You deserve honesty, not more lies." That evening, I gathered my courage and waited for Jennifer to come home. I could feel a heavy weight in my chest as she walked through the door, a smile plastered on her face. I took a deep breath and steeled myself for the conversation. "Jennifer, we need to talk," I said, my tone serious. "I checked your phone last night and I saw that you're still talking to David." Her face fell, and for a moment she looked like a deer caught in headlights. "Mark, I can explain," she stammered, her hands fidgeting. "Explain what?" I interrupted, my anger bubbling to the surface. "How you've been lying to me again after everything we've been through." "I didn't mean to. I thought I could handle it, I swear," she pleaded, eyes welling with tears. "Handle it? You think keeping in touch with him is okay?" I shot back. "You said you wanted to fix things. This isn't fixing anything, Jennifer. It's just prolonging the pain." She took a step back, visibly shaken. "I'm sorry. I thought I could just maintain a friendship." "I did want to hurt you." "Friendship?" I barked, incredulous. You think you can just be friends with the guy you cheated on me with? That's not how this works. The argument escalated and I felt the walls closing in. I was furious, and yet deep down, a part of me lamented the loss of what we once had. I was desperate for her to understand the depth of her betrayal, for her to really see how she was hurting me all over again. As we yelled back and forth, I realized it wasn't just about her betrayal. It was about my own fear of losing someone I loved deeply. I could feel the pain welling up inside me, and despite my anger, I couldn't help but reflect on the love we had shared. After a heated exchange, she finally broke down, crying uncontrollably. "I don't want to lose you, Mark. I messed up and I'm so scared of what I've done. But I want to be better. I'll cut ties with him for good, I promise." In that moment, I was torn. Part of me wanted to believe her and give her another chance, but another part was screaming that I couldn't keep doing this. I had to protect myself, even if it meant facing the painful truth that our relationship might be irreparably damaged. "I need time to think about whether I can trust you again, Jennifer," I said finally, my voice steadier. "You have to show me that you're serious about repairing this, but I can't keep living in this cycle of betrayal." As we stood there, the silence that followed was thick with uncertainty. I knew that whatever happened next would either bring us closer together or drive us further apart. The road ahead was fraught with difficulties, but I needed to decide if I was willing to continue walking it with her or if it was time to finally let go. The days following our confrontation were a blur of emotions. I felt like I was teetering on the edge of a precipice, unsure whether to leap or retreat. Jennifer seemed to take our fight to heart. She cut off all contact with David and was doing her best to show me that she was committed to our marriage. It felt like she was genuinely trying to change, but I had been fooled before. Counseling sessions continued, and Dr. Lewis helped guide us through the process of rebuilding trust. I watched as Jennifer worked through her feelings, reflecting on her past choices and how they had led us to this painful crossroads. There were moments when I saw glimpses of the woman I fell in love with, and my heart ached with conflicting emotions. But those moments were often overshadowed by doubts that gnawed at me. As the weeks rolled by, I tried to focus on my own well-being, spending time with friends, picking up hobbies I had neglected, and finding moments of joy outside of my relationship with Jennifer. I started running again, using the physical exertion as a way to clear my mind. I needed to remind myself that irrespective of what happened with her, I had my own life to lead. However, with every step I took towards healing, I also found myself wrestling with the idea of forgiveness. Could I truly let go of the pain she had caused me? Each time I saw her trying to engage with me, I had to remind myself that the road to forgiveness is long and winding. It wasn't something I could rush, it had to come naturally. The breakthrough came during one of our counseling sessions. We were discussing our feelings about the future, and Jennifer surprised me by saying, "I know I don't deserve it, but I hope you can forgive me, Mark. I want to rebuild what we had. I want to be the partner you deserve, if you'll let me." Her vulnerability struck a chord within me. I realized that forgiveness was about my own peace of mind, not just her actions. Holding on to anger would only prolong my suffering. As I looked into her eyes, I saw the sincerity and remorse that had been absent in the earlier stages of our reconciliation. "Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting," I said, my voice steady but filled with emotion. "It means choosing to let go of the hurt. I can't promise that it will happen overnight, but I'm willing to try." Her face lit up, and for the first time in a long while I felt a spark of hope. It wouldn't be easy, but we were both committed to working through the pain together. I began to realize that this journey wasn't just about rebuilding our marriage, it was also about rebuilding ourselves as individuals. In the weeks that followed, I made a conscious effort to be open with my feelings. I shared my fears and insecurities with Jennifer, and in turn, she opened up about her struggles and what had led her to make such devastating choices. We began to communicate more effectively, allowing us to navigate conflict with a sense of understanding rather than hostility. As the months passed, I noticed significant changes, not just in Jennifer but in myself as well. I was learning to trust again, not only her, but also in the idea that we could forge a new path together. We started rebuilding our connection, engaging in activities we once enjoyed, cooking together, going for hikes, and even planning weekend getaways. I still had moments of doubt, especially when I saw a notification on her phone or heard her mention David's name by accident. But instead of letting those moments drive a wedge between us, I addressed them directly. I know this is a process, but it's important to me that we are honest about everything. I told her one night after a particularly tense moment, "I don't want to feel like I'm walking on eggshells around you." "I completely understand," she replied, her eyes filled with remorse. "I want you to feel safe with me again. I'll work on being more transparent." It wasn't always smooth sailing and there were bumps along the way, but I realized that every step we took towards healing was a step towards reclaiming our love. I started to see glimmers of the woman I had married, the passion, the laughter, the warmth. While the road was long and fraught with challenges, I was beginning to embrace the possibility of a future that could be even better than what we had before. As I reflect on everything that has happened, I've learned valuable lessons about love, trust, and the importance of honest communication. I've learned that healing takes time, and that it's okay to feel vulnerable and scared. Every relationship has its challenges, but it's how we choose to navigate those challenges that defines the strength of our bond. Ultimately, I've discovered that forgiveness is not just a gift we give to others, it's a gift we give ourselves. I'm learning to let go of the past, to embrace hope for the future, and to cherish the love that has been reignited within us. Whatever lies ahead, I now know that our journey together is worth fighting for.